We have this coterie of rich franchises, the company now, that people want to engage with.
I came here to try and continue what Walt Disney and his associates set in motion 50 years ago, which is to experiment with every new and innovative kind of entertainment possible.
It's what we hope to do here, to really develop something that, well, just more than an entertainment enterprise. It's something that contributes in many other ways.
Hey, this is Synergy Loves Company, where we explore how Disney connects to everything so you can feel connected to Disney even when you can't be at the parks. I'm Eric, and today we're live, so thanks for keeping me company. And make sure to drop a comment or a question and let me know that you're here so I can say hi. But actually, it's not just me today. It's not just me. Nope, I'm being joined by Dr. Cody Havard, and He's an expert on fandom, rivalry, sports, and of course, Disney, because he's the host of the Being a Fan of Disney podcast. Cody, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Eric. It's fun having me again.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to have you here because we have a lot of good sports stuff to talk about, and that's kind of one of your expertise pieces, that sports rivalry stuff. So I'm excited to hear what you have to tell me. You got a little bit back there behind you right now, some of that banana ball stuff we're going to get into later on in the show, and I'm actually not that knowledgeable of it, so I'm looking forward to that conversation.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's first get into some news stories. We'll keep it in that realm of sports, and we'll get into this soon. All right, so the first one we're going to do here is that Disney Imagineers are rebuilding LA parks after the wildfires. Disney's putting up the creative muscle towards wildfire recovery in Los Angeles. As part of a $15 million commitment, the company is investing $5 million to rebuild Altadena's Charles White Park, which was destroyed earlier this year. So the Disney Imagineers, some of whom even lost their own homes in the fires, are designing a new community center, a playground with Disney-style interactive elements, an outdoor amphitheater for local events. So it's kind of cool. The revitalized space is going to open in 2026 alongside work in 2 additional parks that they're going to work on. We could probably see the plans for those pretty soon. And they're going to plan some events in these parks, like maybe a Christmas tree lighting and all sorts of cool stuff like that. So it's a little Disney magic helping to rebuild LA. I think it looks really cool. I don't know exactly what it kind of reminds me of, like a Bugs Land kind of look. What do you think?
Yeah. It does. It's a really cool thing that they're doing. I mean, they're, the corporate social responsibility, rebuilding communities and everything is really cool. It makes me think of when somebody goes to this park. I'm sure, they're not going to have like Disney sign that says like you're entering a Disney park or whatever. But if you are going to this park and you're on the fence about, hey, should we go to Disneyland or Walt Disney World or plan a vacation or whatever, and you go and you have a good experience here, that ultimately, kind of makes you want to do that more, So
Yeah.
I think it's really, really cool, and it's awesome looking.
Yeah, I think it's a really neat that's a really cool point. A really neat point too, that it like kind of is that little, it's got a little bit of advertising in it, even though they are doing their like philanthropic kind of thing, and like rebuilding this park, which is kind of cool. I would love for them to build more parks. I
Yeah.
want to see what the interactive elements turn out to be. And like they have 2 more. I wonder if they're going to be like a repeat of just this one over again with like kind of like the pine cone playground kind of look and the clovers and stuff, or if it's going to be something totally different in each community.
Yeah.
Definitely
And you know
something.
what,
Yeah.
like, you know what it makes me think? Remember what you remember Disney stores, like going to actual Disney stores in the mall?
Yes.
Those were the best advertisements for being a Disney fan, for wanting to go to a Disney park, because you could go to those stores and you could see the figures and everything they had at the top of the, at the toward the ceiling of the stores. Those are the same ones that you would see in World of Disney.
Yeah.
And it was just such a cool way for people to be able to experience Disney.
Yeah, it's like whenever we can have that little bit of Disney, like, close to home, that's, like, the best, so yeah.
Yeah, it made me think maybe there's one or two stores that are still open. It made me sad from a fan perspective, but also like just, from a business and strategic perspective. I was like, this is you're giving up a huge advertising stream for the company, that now there are fewer and fewer ways for somebody to kind of reach out and touch Disney without going to the parks. And as everybody knows, it's getting more and more expensive to be able to go and do that. So maybe things like this, and if they,
Yeah.
you know, maybe an idea would be, hey, let's maybe expand these across the country, where
Yeah.
they are like municipal parks, and that could be a way to compete in a small way with what Universal's doing with some of their regional parks. They're opening one in Frisco for kids. They're opening one in Vegas that's like the horror nights for adults and things.
Right.
This could be a way to compete with that on some level.
Yeah. No, I definitely, it's like one of those things where, like, if I'm in the area, I would love to see a Disney park.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, bring him out by us, and yeah, it is really cool. Especially too, since a lot of the Imagineers and some of the employees might even live in these neighborhoods where they're doing
Yeah.
it. It's like, their own thing. All right, let's get to our
Yeah.
next story, which this one's a big one. Disney and YouTube TV they finally made up last week after more than 2 weeks of all those blacked out channels on YouTube TV, all the angry sports fans when they couldn't watch college football and Monday Night Football. Disney and YouTube TV has finally stopped fighting and agreed to work together again. So yes, Disney announced a multi-year distribution deal that brings the full lineup back to YouTube TV, including ESPN, ABC, Disney Channel, FX, National Geographic, all those things that people were missing out on, yelling about on social media. And the agreement also tosses in this bonus where subscribers of YouTube TV will get access to ESPN's new streaming service, that unlimited plan. So Disney networks are already coming back online just in time for football this weekend, which means the pieces return to the living rooms everywhere, at least for now. So this was exciting. I am a YouTube TV user, so it was nice to get Disney stuff back. But yeah, no, I know you said you had recently been talking a lot about this deal, kind of in an event that you were at. So what do you have to say about this big deal here?
Yeah, when we were talking about it in the marketing classes that I teach, we
Oh, I may have dropped you.
they're
Oh, there we go.
blacked out on Spectrum. One of the big things that Spectrum wanted was for their subscribers to be able to get access to Disney Plus. So that sounds like, what YouTube TV wanted now, especially, and I don't know if they got access to Disney Plus, but it sounds like they're getting access to the ESPN app, the new ESPN app. And so that is ultimately a win for YouTube TV, and I would think probably a little bit better for YouTube TV than the Walt Disney Company. However, Disney does also get to have more people watching this ESPN standalone service, and I'm not sure, I haven't seen the numbers, how many people are doing that so far.
Yeah.
So this could be a really, really good thing for the company as well.
Well, it helps that subscriber churn, right? Like if you get a bunch of
Yeah.
people who have access through ESPN TV, like that kind of helps lock them in for the long term too. If they get to, I mean, they get to count those as subscribers, so it's
Yeah.
like pretty awesome. And then like with all of the, I know this one was exciting because I recently did an episode on ESPN and their connection to Disney, and I planned it before it even all this happened, and I recorded it when there was still like no deal, and then by the time I was editing it like a day or two later, there was already like a deal in the works, and I was like, do I go back and re-record the end? So I was like, it still kind of sounds ambiguous enough that I'll just leave it be. But like all the deals that saying deals so many times, all the deals that ESPN has worked with, like NFL and NBA and all that kind of stuff, it's like there's going to be a lot of content there on YouTube TV through this Disney deal.
Yeah, and I have to say I have not listened to your ESPN.
That's okay. Now you got something to
yet.
listen to next. No.
Yeah. When I imagine in that episode you talked a lot about the purchase of Capital Cities ABC, right?
Yes, that came out a lot in there in kind of the series that was up in there for sure. But yeah, I kind of focused more on the NFL and like their kind of deal with Disney, because that was the big one when the new ESPN app launched. So I kind of crossed into NFL a lot.
I feel like for me, I feel like that ABC Capital Cities purchase or acquisition in '96 was, I think, the most important purchase that the company made because a large reason why they did it was because of ESPN, because every cable subscriber still pays for ESPN regardless if they ever watch the channels or not. And so that brought so much money into the company that really allowed the company to do a lot of things in their parks. It also allowed, for future acquisitions like Pixar and Lucasfilm, Marvel, all of these other things. It kind of opened the door to a lot of things for the company. So I have always thought that is possibly or probably the most important purchase the company has ever made.
I totally agree with you. I feel like I've done quite a few topics on Synergy Loves Company that go back to that deal. Also because I just love talking about Michael Eisner, and that's like his signature big deal that he's done. But yeah, no, it's done. It's done a lot. And I mean the deals with then like that, it opens the doors to, like you said, all those other ones. And then like ESPN itself and like all those deals. And you were even telling me a little bit more about like the MLB deal that ESPN brokered like in last week. Since like some of this went down, there's even this big new MLB deal. So baseball is not necessarily my go-to sport. So like that's where I'm like, hey, you got to tell me more about ESPN and Major League Baseball.
Yeah, so I was actually, this last week I was attending a conference. It was actually about themed entertainment, of all things. But
nice.
I was in Orlando. That's where the conference was, and I actually was walking in the Magic Kingdom on Wednesday when I saw the news break about ESPN and Major League Baseball signing a new 3-year deal. So if people don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 months ago. ESPN and Disney, or I should say ESPN and Major League Baseball, had a joint announcement that they were ending their relationship after this season. So there was no longer going to be Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN starting in the 2026 season. And when that happened, I remember having a lot of conversations about, well, ESPN flagship, this new ESPN app is about to launch. So what they're really trying to do is they're trying to make a new deal for that. They're trying to get more people to watch this ESPN app. And so what ended up happening, and then I had heard rumors that ESPN was actually, they wanted access to MLB.TV, which is the like basically streaming subscription that baseball fans can purchase, and they can watch all out of market games. That like if your favorite team is out of market for you, then you watch most or all of their baseball games on MLB.TV. And so that was what this deal was. It was a new announcement with it. It includes NBC and Peacock is getting some games. Netflix is getting some games. I think Netflix might actually be getting like some of the opening day games, but ESPN would be getting what I think would be considered the A package. Although it seems a little bit different. ESPN is actually only going to air, I think, 30 Major League Baseball games next season, or over the next every season for the next 3 years.
Okay.
However, they now have access to Major League Baseball or MLB.TV streaming service, I just said. So what that means, and I've read different things that that ESPN is actually, they have some ownership over it now, which would be really, really interesting. I've also read that they essentially have the opportunity to have people purchase Major League Baseball or MLB.TV through the ESPN app. So MLB.TV, I think, is about $150 a season or $150 a year if you purchase through MLB.TV. So I don't know if it is going to be something that's an additional purchase in the ESPN app, or if you are somehow going to get access, maybe even, like a discounted rate if you purchase through the ESPN app or anything. So it'll be really, really interesting to see what happens this next year. And I watch MLB.TV a lot. So it'll also be interesting to see kind of you have access on MLB.TV to a lot of different things. It'll be interesting to see if you get that with the ESPN app as well.
Yeah. No, because I mean going back to like the deal, like it would just kind of pile more and more awesomeness onto that, so that like then you see with like the deals with the NFL, like if Sunday Ticket got involved, like ESPN could be trying to get into a lot of those different big packages, which could be if they become the one-stop shop for sports. That's kind of always been that ESPN goal, to become the place for sports. So that's pretty impressive, that MLB deal. I did see some about it, but I didn't get as deep into it as kind of looking at the larger implications. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I've spoken about it a few times on Being a Fan of Disney, the podcast, about kind of what I thought was going to happen. And it's not like I'm, saying things that other people aren't saying. It's a lot of people were thinking this, and the trade magazines had been reporting this for a while. So it is really impressive to hear that a deal has been announced. And, it was announced about a week and a half or 2 weeks after, almost 3 weeks after the conclusion of possibly the most popular World Series for Major League Baseball in a long time. There were a lot of people that were watching the World Series, and so the league was able to capitalize off of that. And in this case, I think Disney is as well through ESPN.
Oh yeah. So no, it'll be nice to see what happens in the future with that. And I mean, baseball is America's pastime, but there's another sport Disney got into this past weekend, and that is Formula One, which took over Las Vegas. And Disney was like a big player in this. Earlier this summer, when I did a live stream and did some news, I talked about how they were going to be part of this. But now yesterday, the event actually happened. So like Disney showed up to Formula One this weekend in Las Vegas and didn't just slap their logo on the banner. They Disney-fied the entire track. You can see the sphere. I got a picture up there where it had the Disney logo, Disney X Formula One. And so like Mickey, Minnie, Goofy, Donald, they were all out there greeting fans, walking just like it was Main Street USA here on the racetrack. And the Disneyland band was part of it and performed the national anthem, and the characters joined the post-race celebrations at the Bellagio fountain. It was kind of like a little mini Fantasmic in a way. So the race also kicked off that 2-year partnership that Disney and F1 together. So yeah, in America, F1 has gone full theme park, and judging by the crowds, I don't think anyone's complaining about it. So Yeah, I don't know. Racing is one of those things. Well, Formula One racing is not necessarily the biggest sport in the U.S., but it is growing, and it's definitely big internationally. So it's kind of an interesting strategic move for Disney to get involved.
Yeah, they because of the success or the popularity of F1, especially outside of the United States, I think this is a really good way to really bolster their ESPN coverage and their sports coverage outside of the United States. Did you happen to see the Bellagio fountain, the video of the Bellagio fountains with Mickey in the show?
I didn't see the whole show, but I saw some clips of it. So I
Yeah,
mean, it's cool stuff. Like, I
yeah, it was
mean,
really neat looking.
yeah, the group, I even did some research into this back in the day. The organization that designed the Bellagio fountains was started by the guy who did the reverse fountains in Epcot. So like even the fountains themselves are connected to kind of that Disney fountain technology. Um, which yeah, and I mean if Bellagio fountains and like World of Color at Disneyland are like siblings in a
Yeah.
way, and how they those fountain shows. So it's
Well,
like Disney in
and
front of the fountain seemed right, you know.
they were even like in this video, they were able to show like movies or moving images on the
Yeah.
fountains at Bellagio, which was really, really cool and very, very World of Color at California Adventure. We actually were in Las Vegas for 2 days when they were putting all of this up. And I mean, it
Oh, yeah.
was really difficult to get around the strip because everything was
It's
closed
the
down
track.
getting ready for
Yeah.
this race. But and like, one of the things like when we went to see the Bellagio fountains, you had to watch it from the hotel instead of like be able to watch it on the
Mm,
strip like you usually
yeah.
are, because that big structure was,
The
some of it was
grandstand right there.
already up. So
Yeah. No, it's cool, and it's interesting that, Disney's getting in kinda on the ground floor with this one,
yeah,
and it's Disney, it's not like it's just ESPN, it's like a full, like the whole company getting involved, which is kinda cool.
yeah.
All right. The last story we have is sports again, but it's the one. Football's my sport. That's the one I like to watch. So, Monsters Fun Day Football is coming up. It's this Monday Night Football game is going to look a little different because ESPN, Disney, Pixar, and the NFL are teaming up for Monster Fun Day Football, a real-time animated broadcast set inside Monstropolis, or the world of Monsters Inc. Players from the Eagles and the Chargers will appear as animated versions of themselves using live motion tracking and, of course, all those NFL next-gen stats. Fans will see Mike and Sully in the mix too. Familiar monsters from Monsters Inc. characters roaming the sidelines, and even Roz reporting because, of course, she's always watching. It's the third year Disney has turned a real NFL game into an animated one, following Toy Story and then The Simpsons. So you could catch it on December 8th on ESPN2, Disney Plus, and the Disney Channel, and then they always had it streaming afterwards. Disney XD has it too, so it's going to be all over the place. I kind of like these, although I don't feel like I can watch a whole game like this.
I really like them. Like we actually spend a lot of time talking about these in class as well, and I've written about them, and also we actually, students have an assignment where they can propose a alternate broadcast of
Oh,
a game.
that's cool.
And so, they first started doing this with the NHL a few years ago with Big City Greens Classic, and then then they had the Toy
Right.
Story Football Fun Day, and that was, that was that was one of the London games. So it actually aired about 9 o'clock here in the
Oh
United
yeah.
States. Last year when they did The Simpsons, that was kind of a big step because it was Monday Night Football, and now
Yeah.
this being Monday Night Football as well. Last year, they also did the Christmas Day NBA game. The Spurs and the Knicks, they had play on. It looked like they were playing on Main Street USA at Walt Disney World. But I really, really like watching these. And what's really cool is afterwards, if you look on YouTube or you look on social media or anywhere, people have kind of done a split screen of the broadcast
Yeah.
that everybody watches and then the alternate broadcast. And so it's really, really cool. And these usually have, like a 20 or 30-second delay, so they can
Right.
kind of add characters or add drama if they need to. But they are really cool. I can also say I haven't sat down and watched a whole one either. Like I haven't watched a whole, but however, I also don't sit down, and I'm not able to sit down and watch a whole NFL game from start to
Gotcha.
finish either. So
Gotcha.
unless it's the Super Bowl usually.
Okay.
But yeah, these are fun. The one thing that I
Yeah.
think is interesting is they're they're opening Monstropolis at at Hollywood Studios. I'm a little
Yes.
interested that they're doing this game now rather than, I don't know when Monstropolis is supposed to open, when Monsters Land is
Right.
supposed to open at Hollywood Studios, but I wonder if during this game they're going to have some type of preview of that land. I kind of figured they would possibly use Monsters when it was closer to the opening of that land, so then it could be like an advertisement
Yeah.
for go visit that land at Hollywood Studios.
You
But I
wonder
don't
too,
think that's
though.
that's not going to open for another 2
No.
years, I think.
So I wonder too if it's almost just like we're gonna start like it's been a while since a Monsters movie has come
Yeah,
out, so like we're reacquainting the public
yeah,
with the characters, and kind of keeping them in your vision, so that when we do open this soon, you're gonna remember this game, and that's gonna be a closer touch point.
yeah, yeah,
Because it has been a little bit. But yeah, I kind of had the same thought. Like I wonder how strategically this is connected to that, because you definitely know it is.
yeah,
Nothing
yeah.
happens in isolation with Disney. So, but no, these are cool. I'll usually flip between, and I'll definitely flip onto this one. Um, but we were talking about some interesting characters in sports, and I think it's then time that we have to get into our feature presentation and talk about some interesting characters in baseball. So let's talk about Banana Ball. Let's do it. So, you and I kind of have been messaging each other back and forth a little bit about this for a while, because you've been talking about it on your show, and whenever I see it pop up on your show, because we've been kind of going back and forth with it, I definitely listen. I'm like, I need to figure out what he's talking about, because Banana Ball and the Savannah Bananas are something that I don't really know too much about them. I know I like my thought of them is like they're like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. But I know it goes deeper than that. So let's get into it. For like anyone brand new to the Savannah Bananas, like me, what exactly is Banana Ball, and what made their approach immediately feel Disney to you? Because that's where we kind of started talking about it.
Yeah, and I'll try to make it brief, which I'm not good at making anything
That's
brief. But
okay.
so basically, the Savannah Bananas, they started excuse me, they started off as one of these college summer leagues. So college players, after their college seasons are over, several will go play in these like wooden bat leagues during the summers. And the most popular one is the Cape Cod League, which is, if anybody's ever heard of any, they probably heard of that. But there are these leagues all over the country. And basically they exist so that players can get used to playing with wooden bats. They can get used to playing every day. So if they are going to play at a higher level, um, like minor league baseball or even major league baseball, they can get used to that. But they also exist so that scouts can go and they can see these players, and they can see them play hit with a wooden bat instead of hit with the aluminum or metal or composite bats that they hit with during the season. So the Savannah Bananas, and they started as one of these teams, and they competed for, I think, 3 or 4 years, in the league that they were a part of. Jesse Cole, I can't remember exactly when they bought the team. Him and his wife bought the team, but basically they wanted to. They bought the team in Savannah. They held a contest to see or No, when they announced that the team was going to be called the Bananas, they, they'll say there's people were questioning what it was. They were, kind of sort of making fun of it in a way. But,
Yeah.
Jesse Cole said, hey, they're talking about it. Like they've never talked it. People haven't talked about this collegiate summer team in such a long time. They happen to play in a really, really old stadium, which is called Grayson Stadium, which I believe is, it's one of the oldest in the South, at least. And so, but what they started doing was they started to make TikTok videos, so that they would do these like fun skits and everything during games, and they started making these videos so that they would get followers. And I mean, it exploded. They got a lot of followers over their TikTok videos, and from there they just kept building to where then they started what they call Banana Ball, and I believe I can't remember what year it was, 2021 maybe or 22. I think it was 21 when they actually stopped playing in the collegiate summer league and they became full time a professional team or professional organization. And so at that point, what they did is they founded a second team. They started a second team, which if people, well, my chair's blocking it, but they're called the Party Animals, and it's also on my hat. So
There
they
you
were
go.
the Party Animals were the second team that would play the Savannah Bananas. However, it was a little bit different than like the Harlem Globetrotters, where they would always play the Washington Generals, always beat
Right.
the Washington Generals.
Right.
The Banana Ball is it's there. There's no known outcome. They plan everything. They plan the show. They plan the skits. They do all of that. But as far as the game is concerned, it's the outcome is very unknown. And as a matter of fact, the Party Animals, from a baseball playing like perspective, have been more successful than the Savannah Bananas over the last several years. Um, and it's one of those things that, the Savannah Bananas have such a big following now, and the players that have been with the Bananas since the beginning, they have such a big following now that I've often thought it's really interesting. Are they going to start sending some of those players to these other teams? And what happens when those players, um, you know, start aging out of when they can play baseball as well as some of these younger players? So, but basically, since about 2021, they've really launched into this banana ball. Founded the Party Animals in 23. They started the Firefighters, which is over my kind of above where I'm
Oh,
pointing
yeah.
right. And that was the third team that was the third showcase team, I should say. They do have a team called the Visitors that will play each of these teams every once in a while. And the Visitors are kind of like they're sort of like the tryout team, if you will.
Oh,
Like
okay.
if somebody tries out for banana ball and they're not ready, or they don't have kind of the online presence of the players on the Bananas or Party Animals or Firefighters, they would go and they would play for the Visitors, and they would kind of be able to work out their craft and work out their show and kind of what their shtick is going to be. Because each one of these players, the purpose is, um, they wanted to take baseball and they wanted to make it fun. So Jesse Cole said, what we want to do is look at the parts of the game that are boring, and we want to do something about those. One of the first things that was boring that people said about baseball was how long an at bat would take. A person would
Yes.
see a pitch and then it would be 30 seconds or 45 seconds. I mean, before now, Major League Baseball has a pitch
The
clock, which is
clock.
great. But
Yeah.
before that, it could actually be like multiple minutes between each pitch. It was crazy. And so Jesse Cole said, okay, you can't step out of the box. Unless there's a foul ball, nobody can step out of the box. The games themselves are 2 hours. So what that means is they actually
Right.
don't, they have a running clock the whole time. They don't start an inning after 2 hours begins or after 2 hours is over. So if inning number 9 starts with 1 hour, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, then they'll play out that inning. right?
Okay.
So they are able to have it planned where they do go over 2 hours occasionally, but and they also, people said they didn't really like walks in baseball. So instead of walks, they call it a four pitch. What is it? A four pitch steal or four pitch. I can't remember what it is, but basically, if somebody gets walked, a four pitch sprint. They have the chance to run as many bases as they can
Oh,
before
nice.
getting out. So the team that walks them. So let's say the animals are at bat and the bananas walk the party animals. Then the batter from the party animals takes off running to first, second, third, home if he can. And the Savannah Bananas, all 9 players on the team have to touch the ball. And then,
Oh,
so basically, you have the pitcher
so
that
they
threw the
throw
ball,
it
the catcher
around
that
and
throws
yeah.
it. So basically, what they do is if there's a walk, the catcher throws down to second base, and then everybody kind of goes to second base and they're tossing the ball around. And usually they've gotten
Mm.
so good that usually, the batter will get to first base. They usually don't get to second. Um, but they did a whole bunch of these things to make the game itself faster and make it more attractive. And then they have because they started with TikTok videos, they
Yeah.
have musical numbers that they do, and they have
Oh,
skits that
that's
they
cool.
do. And so people go to one of these games, and we went to one in Nashville last year, and 3 hours before the game starts, they open the gates. And I actually just watched a video yesterday where he was talking about this. They actually open the gates, they do a rope drop. Like everybody is lined up,
There's
and
some
then
Disney
3
right
hours before
there.
the game,
Yeah.
they do a rope drop. Like and I know you had it in your notes, but he was very inspired by Walt Disney and P.T. Barnum. Jesse Cole was, and so they welcome everybody in. The players are out there, the like the players on the field, but then they also have the entertainment players and the entertainment cast. Everyone is out there welcoming into this like party 3 hours before the game starts. And then the gates, or I should say, like you can go to your seat an hour and a half before. And as soon as you sit down, it's a show going on. I mean, there's music going the whole time. It's a lot of fun. It also can be a little tiresome because it's kind of, it can be overload in some ways.
Gotcha.
But it is a whole lot of fun to watch these games. And so I'll kind of leave it there, and then we can get into what they're kind of how they progressed and what they're doing now and everything.
Yeah, for sure. So you even got into it where to Jesse Cole, the founder, said he was inspired by Walt Disney and P.T. Barnum, kind of like that circus aspect, but also that it almost seems like too, like you said, there's a rope drop. There's like he's kind of taken some notes from the Disney experience. So what from like a fan experience standpoint, like you went there and saw the game, like why do you think families and Disney fans respond to Banana Ball in like the ways that people don't really respond to traditional baseball anymore? I know I haven't, like, as like Disney fans really do resonate with Banana Ball because the only way I know about it is from like Disney fan people I follow on social media who are like posting about the bananas. That's like the first place I heard about it. So it's like through that Disney network is where I learned about it. So like what do you think it is about like that kind of like that core Disney audience is the same Banana Ball audience?
I mean, it very much, you're not going to see Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse and the sensational six there every time. Well, I should say every
Maybe
time.
not yet. No.
They do well. They have. I mean, they've played in Anaheim. They played at Angel Stadium.
Right. And they did a day at Disneyland too. Didn't the
They did a
bananas
day
showed
at
up at
Disneyland.
Disneyland? Yeah.
This year they're playing again at Angel Stadium, and I think something's going to happen around that game that we'll talk about here in just a little bit. But they're playing at ESPN Worldwide of Sports,
Yeah.
Wide World of Sports at Walt Disney World. So you will see the Disney characters there, but at most events you're not going to see those Disney characters. But what you do have, I already mentioned, you have the anticipation of the rope drop, which is
Yeah.
when you have to stand in line, and he talked about this in the video I saw yesterday. He said, there's one entrance to a Disney park, or most Disney parks. Epcot has multiple entrances, but to most Disney parks, there, especially the first ones, there was one entrance because they wanted to control people coming and going. They wanted to be able to control the show, at Disneyland or at Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom. They want you to walk under the train tracks and see the red carpet, if you will. They wanted you to be able to walk down Main Street USA and see the names on the buildings and it be like a opening or closing credits rolling,
Right.
And so Banana Ball does that. They build this anticipation. And when you walk in, you walk through this line of the players and the owner and the entertainment that is there, and everybody is out, celebrating, and the players come out and they sign autographs. And I mean, these lines are massive. That the players will be out for 30 minutes. So the game that we went to in Nashville, the Bananas were playing the Party Animals, and the Bananas were out for 30 minutes, and then the Party Animals were out for 30 minutes. And it's really, really good. The players are able to, they're able to kind of interact and engage with the fans so well. I mean, that's part of their job. And it very much is like character meet and greets at a Disney park.
Yeah.
Where you're able to do this, and they are very, very accessible. They have shows the whole time. So you think about when you go to a Disney park, there are shows throughout the day. That's what they're doing. And they have all of these things that they're doing during the game, all of these skits and all of these, all the fun music that they're playing that really gets people engaged. And it's hard not to pay attention at a Banana Ball game. It could be easy. I could say it could be easy not to pay attention to possibly the baseball aspect of it. However, you cannot not pay attention at a Banana Ball game unless you are just definitely trying to, not have fun and
Just way out of it. Yeah.
I mean, when we went to the game, they played at Nissan Stadium, which is where the Tennessee Titans play. I mean, that's a 80,000 seat stadium or whatever. And we were at the top, and we were probably 30 rows, 20 rows from the top. And they had people up in our section throughout the game interacting with people. And yeah, I mean, it was really, it's a really, really neat experience. And so for Disney fans, that feeling when you go, and the kind of the most important thing I think a lot of Disney fans feel when they go is that they can let go of other things that are bothering them. They can kind of forget about what they're dealing with, and they could just have fun for that game. And that's what it feels like to be at a Banana Ball game as well. If you go to a Disney park, granted, you're there for probably 8 to 12 hours. I mean, if you're there in the summer at Disneyland, you're there for 16 hours, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But if you go to a Banana Ball game from beginning to end, I mean, you're there from 2:00, or let's say 3:00 until 10:00. You're there 7 hours because they do a post game show, and they do,
nice.
post game interactions and everything. And so you really can have this opportunity to create a real, or participate in a real diversion from what everything is going on outside of that Banana Ball. So I think that's why Disney fans really, really like Banana Ball.
Yeah, for sure. No, there's like the way you're describing, it's a 2-hour game, but the experience is so much more as far as time. So, and it seems like they really do fill that time with a lot of things. Like I know I've gone to, professional baseball games that you could get there early and there's not much for you to do there. You could watch the players kind of warming up, but it's like, no, they make it the spectacle, the experience, which sounds, that already sounds better to me. But yeah, as far as no, go for it.
Well, I would also say, I mean, minor league baseball has been doing this a long time, where they have more interaction during the game and engagement during the game, but Major League Baseball is starting to have more engagement before and during their games as well. And I think, some of that probably has to be attributed to the popularity of something
Yeah.
like Banana Ball and what Banana Ball and what the Bananas and Jesse Cole will say is it, and Emily Cole is his wife, co-owner, will say is it's always fans first. And so I believe their company might even be called Fan First Entertainment. I'm not sure on that, but they always talk about how like fan first is their mission. And so that was one of the original missions of Walt Disney, the person, was that, the fan or the customer was the most important thing, and the customer experience was the most important thing. And so that's what they try to emulate with Banana Ball. And it's really, really cool. And what they're doing this year with this Banana Ball Championship League is during the 2025 season, they also added or at the end of the 2024 season, they added the Texas Tailgaters. And so then before the 2026 season, and this is what's happening all right now, about a month ago, October 15th, maybe, they announced, or maybe November 1st, they announced it's right around then, sorry. They have 2 new teams. And one team is, I don't know if I can show on I don't know where it is exactly on my picture behind me, but one of them's called the Loco Beach Coconuts. And so basically they're going to kind of be like the East Coast team. A lot of their games are on the East Coast. And then once my background comes back up, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
You'll see there's a team called the Indianapolis Clowns, which is actually they're paying homage to the Indianapolis Clowns of the old Negro Baseball League, which is really, really cool.
That is
and
really
so
cool.
The Indianapolis Clowns were referred to by a lot of people as the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. Like they would do tricks during their games, and these were during like
actual games,
yeah. So they were doing really, really cool things. And so for the 6th team that they introduced is the Indianapolis Clowns, which is really, really cool. And from many perspectives, from a history perspective to like inclusion to engagement, it's really, really cool. And they're actually, so that team is going to kind of be the Midwest's team, if you will. Because then you have Texas, that's, the Texas, most of their games are in Texas this year. And so they started this championship league that they're calling it Banana Ball Championship League. Is they're actually, I think each team 60 something games, 68 games, something like that. And they still are traveling around, able to now, I think they're playing maybe in every state in the country, which is really, really cool. They've never been able to do it before. And they're going to have like a kind of an opening season tournament in Savannah, Georgia, between these 6 teams. And then they're going to have a preseason championship, like a postseason playoffs with the 6 teams. And so it'll be really fun to see how it works out. And what they've done over the last week or 2 weeks now is they're going through their player draft. So they had the 4 existing teams could, I forget how many players they were able to keep. And then fans voted on each team to keep an additional number of players. And they actually had a draft.
That's cool.
And so in each round of the draft, like the 4 existing teams would pick 1 player. And then the Indianapolis Clowns and the Loco Beach Coconuts would pick 2 players each, so that they could get up to having a similar roster or the same number roster size for all 6 teams. So it's going to be really, really fun and really, really interesting to see what happens this year. Like they're playing in Memphis at the minor league stadium here in Memphis, and it's going to be the Party Animals and the Indianapolis Clowns are playing. So we're going to be able to go see that. And then we're actually going to visit my wife's family in Lincoln, Nebraska, and we're going to see 2 they're going to play 2 games in Lincoln, Nebraska. They're playing one in the minor league baseball stadium there, and then they're actually playing one in Memorial Stadium, which is where the Nebraska Cornhuskers football team plays.
Yeah.
So both of those will be really, really fun.
Yeah, those are giant venues too. So
Yeah.
that's impressive. That's impressive. No, so that like giant venues filled with people, but like you can also watch these. I'm gonna bring up this picture again. You can also watch these. Some of them have been shown on ESPN Plus and Disney Plus. So and I imagine there's going to be so many more in the future. So like, what makes this such a strong fit for Disney streaming, ESPN's flagship strategy, all that? Like we kind of got into that ESPN stuff a lot earlier. How did the Bananas fit into this, do you think? Like is it a perfect fit for them?
I think it is. I mean, I guess nothing can actually be a perfect fit, but it's pretty close. It's a great fit for them because they are in most cases family friendly. Now, they do some skits that are kind of more made for adults at times. One of the an interesting thing I've always seen is one of the most popular players on the Party Animals team.
Yeah.
I think he has Irish descent, and so when he walks up to bat, he has like red hair. He's grown out his beard and everything. And he wears like a vest to kind of like sort of like Irish or colors that. And when he walks up, he actually like drinks a beer. Now I don't know like if it's alcoholic or non-alcoholic, what, but I have thought like, oh, that's kind of interesting. They talk about how it's such a family friendly thing, but like one of their one of their most popular players is doing this. But so they do things like that, I guess could be, some people could watch and be offended by or think it might be a little bit weird. But as far as their fit, I mean, they are very, very, they are more family friendly than, a lot of content.
True.
They also, it's easy because they're 2 hours. And so, if you watch a stream and you can stream, like you could stream all of these games that people are able to see now on the screen. All of these were on Disney Plus and ESPN Plus last year. I think the year before that, they did maybe 6 or 8 games, or 4 or 6 games or something like that. They stream everything free on their YouTube channel as well. You can always watch on their YouTube channel, but it's easy for a provider to plan around because they're 2 hours. It's going to begin at a certain time, and it's not going to run over much of that 2 hours. It might run over 5 or 10 minutes here or there, but it's also streaming, so you're not having to worry as much about with commercials and things like that. And it's pretty much it's action the whole time. They don't really have to take a lot of commercial breaks. As a matter of fact, Jesse Cole talked about how they in their stadium, their home stadium in Savannah, Georgia, they actually took down all their advertisements. And so it is really good for someone, for the companies that are wanting to show this as well, because it's easier to plan. You're probably not going to see the type of behavior that you might see in the, some of these other sporting events. And then also, I mean, the media rights in sports is such a big deal that companies pay such huge sums of money for these media rights. And they don't get to own the games. They're not having to pay as much to show banana ball games, which brings me to my next point. I don't know if you want me to save it or go ahead and
no, go right into it.
I think that at some point, this was on the notes. This is why I asked.
Yeah, no, and this is where I was going to go next too. So I appreciate it. Yeah.
I think at some point Disney will have some type of ownership package with the Savannah Bananas. Whether they actually purchase the Savannah Bananas or not, or they purchase Banana Ball, or they just, if they have something else that's going on I think they're going to have a much um, deeper role in the future of the Savannah Bananas and Banana Ball and the Banana Ball Championship League. Um, because if you go back to what I said with the major leagues that ESPN via or Disney via ESPN have to pay these huge media rights to, they pay these huge media rights and they don't get to own those games. If they owned a sport or owned a league, then they actually could show those games in perpetuity. So they could show them whenever they wanted. They could show, as replays and things like that. Whereas they don't have as much access or ability to do that with these other games. Now, Disney has made deals with like ESPN Media, where now I think they own some of they own some of NFL Media, where they do have access to be able to do things like that. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with this MLB TV thing, but I think I've been saying within the next year or two, I wouldn't be surprised to see Disney um, have some type of additional ownership over Banana Ball. And which brings me they in March is when they're playing in Anaheim again. I'm sure they're going to have another Disneyland
Gotcha.
day. I can't remember exactly when they're at ESPN Wide World of Sports. But I wouldn't be surprised if, around those dates, in particular, the one when they're in Anaheim, that maybe there's a big announcement dealing with the future of Banana Ball, the Savannah Bananas, and Disney. Because if the Bananas ever were going to enter into some acquisition agreement, it seems like they are most interested in working with Disney because of the influence like Disney and the company has had on the ownership. And I think for Disney, it would be a really, really good idea to be able to do that, because then they would be able to show more of these games in perpetuity. They would be able to build more kind of engagement around that. They could also, the podcast is called Synergy Loves Company. They could use the synergy of the Bananas and their parks. They could use them at ESPN Wild World of Sports. They could do so many things with the Savannah Bananas that I think would be really, really cool. They already, it was like 3 or 4 years ago now, they had a ESPN films, I think 8 series documentary about Banana Ball. And so they already are in really, really deep with Banana Ball and the Savannah Bananas. I just think it's going to continue to grow from there. It's going to be exciting to see the future of it.
That's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, even with the parks, like the public parks and the Disney store. It's like if you see a Banana Ball game on ESPN, you're probably going to be more excited about going to it in person, where, like Major League Baseball, it would be a smaller percentage of people who would see the game on TV and immediately go to, I want to be there, where I feel like Banana Ball has a higher conversion rate in that sense. Because of the draw of that, like the entertainment of it. So yeah, it kind of fits into that kind of vertical integration situation for Disney. So no, that would be very interesting to see them get into it, because like for a time Disney had the Mighty Ducks, the Anaheim Ducks, and they had the Anaheim Angels. So like to get back into sports, like professional sports of some kind, would be another kind of going back to that Eisner era again, talking about all that stuff. So that would be kind of cool. I would love to see it.
One quick thing about the Bananas, and then since you brought up like the Ducks and Angels, one quick thing about the Bananas is when you go to a game, it's cheaper to go to a Bananas game than it is to go to a lot of Major League Baseball games as well. Most Banana Ball tickets, I think they're like tiered pricing. You don't really get to pick where you are sitting. But especially if you go to a game in Savannah, Georgia at their stadium, food is actually included in your price of ticket also.
Oh,
so it's like maybe like $60 a ticket, but food is included, everything. If you think about how much people charge or how much people typically spend on that, that's really, really that's a really, really, it wasn't the case in Nashville. And there were that when I was there, I could definitely see, some things that they needed to do. They need to kind of work more with the vendors where they're playing their games, because there were some logistical issues, like getting, where could you get drinks and where could you get food, like when we were there, that because they didn't have control over all of that. The venues are the ones that are controlling that. And so there definitely are some things that they could work on with that. But when you brought up the Ducks and the Angels,
Yeah.
for people who are interested, it's another ESPN Films documentary. I think it's called Once Upon a Time in Anaheim. That's about the Ducks and about the company starting the Ducks. And it really was started because of that movie. Like Michael Eisner's
Yes.
kids enjoyed hockey, so they wanted to make the movie. The success of the movie kind of led the NHL into awarding them a franchise that they started. But what's important here is the reason the company stated for selling the Anaheim Ducks and then also selling the Anaheim Angels, what they were called at the time, is they felt that the leagues were going into a new media rights negotiation, and they felt that might not be viewed positively if one of the major media companies that they were negotiating with also owned teams within those leagues. Now, jump forward about 30 years since those deals have been made.
Right.
Now you do have media companies owning teams. And so it could be maybe there would be a different view of the company if they owned major league teams again. However, owning something like the Bananas, that gets you into that sport realm, gets you into sport ownership, but it is that melding of sport entertainment. Because what they say at the end of each Bananas event is, did you enjoy the show? They don't say, did you enjoy the game? Because you could be a fan of whatever team and they win and that's fun. They lose and that's not as fun, I guess. But when you are at one of their shows, they're focused on your entertainment value, not just who is winning the game. They don't want people to walk away and not have had a good time because their chosen team didn't win. They want it to be part of the show and have everyone entertained. So
No, that's very Disney. Just making sure everyone there is having a good time. It's kind of one of those back to, Disney roots, Walt Disney back in the day at the parks, making sure everyone had a great time. So no, it'll be very interesting, and I would love to see what Disney would do with it. I don't want to see them get a hold of those prices, because we know what Disney does with prices of things. But it'll be,
Here's what's interesting with the pricing, and you said, I'm glad you reminded me of that, because when you look at the pricing of the Bananas games, and let's say a ticket is $60, but you're there for 6 or 7 hours, that's less than $10 an hour. And actually, summer 2023, the first time we went to Disneyland, I was standing in line and I was talking to my wife I said, I can't remember what we paid per ticket. I think I figured maybe I think I had said like maybe 150 or something, just to kind of like have a neutral or a kind of a mean or whatever. And I said, but if you think about, Disneyland it was open for 16 hours the day that we were there. We ended up paying about $775 or $875, whatever that comes out to be, an hour to be there. And when what's really scary is if they ever start justifying that, like you're only paying, you're paying less than $10 an hour to be here, then prices could go really, really high, or a lot higher. Because if you think about going to a concert that lasts 3 hours, and some people are paying over $1,000, or you go to an NBA basketball game that you're probably there for 3 hours before the game starts, and by the time you leave, and times you're paying $100 or more a ticket to go, and so you're paying 25, 30, more than $30 an hour to be there. It's really, really interesting when you think about the price in that perspective. And that's another thing that kind of aligns Banana Ball to Disney, is the price per hour is a lot lower than some of these other entertainment options.
True. No, that's an interesting way to put it. But if anyone from Disney hears this, don't
Yeah.
don't go
Yeah,
down
it's a
that
scary
route.
way to
No.
put it also.
Yeah, no, that right. Oh man.
I probably shouldn't have said that.
Right. No, that's okay. It's a valid point. But no, so like with Banana Ball, I feel like I know a lot more about it now. I'm excited to have a Midwestern team in the Indianapolis Clowns. And like if a Disney fan wanted to dip their toes into Banana Ball for the first time, where do you think they should get started?
So one, I believe you can still watch some of their reruns on Disney Plus. I believe you still can do that. If you can't, they do have you can always watch their games on replay on YouTube. If you anywhere on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, anything that you can watch a whole lot of videos, that would be a good place to start. Anyone, if they want to know kind of the history of Banana Ball, watch that ESPN documentary. It's called Banana Land. And that's something that would kind of, it sort of walks people through the whole process of when they first started, when they first bought the college team or the collegiate summer team, and then led into what was going on up until, like I said, I think maybe 2021 or 22 or something like that. So it doesn't include what's happened since then. But those would be some pretty good places to start to get more information on that. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. There will probably be some more documentaries come out with the success of shows like Ted Lasso. I wouldn't be surprised if there are scripted series that come out about the banana. I mean, that's the other thing. If Disney owned portion or in part, some part of the Savannah Bananas, a Banana Ball, that's a whole other area where they could expand, as well as they could have more documentaries. They could have more of the scripted reality, or they could have more of the straight scripted series about the bananas as well. I was actually, there's a baseball podcast that I listened to that it's led by three women, and it's called what is it? Let me look it up real quick. It's something Glovely. Where is it? Glove Actually. So it's a play on the movie Love Actually. So it's Glove Actually. And there's a segment in each one of those shows where one of the hosts talks about like a sports romance novel that she has read and like recommends. And actually, on one of the more recent episodes, she discussed a novel based on like the Savannah Bananas-esque league. It's not the Savannah Bananas, but like one of the entertainment teams, which just kind of gave me more of a idea that I'm like, it just fits so well that you could have scripted series around these teams and around these players as well. And, I mean, people will, aside from just it being fun to watch the games, a lot of the players are very, very engaging. They're very inspirational as well, that they have a lot of positive messaging for kids that are wanting to play, especially now that youth baseball has become so intense and kind of driving kids away because of like the intensity level. Like, this is a way to just make sure the kids have fun. Like on our baseball team in the spring, like we're going to be trying to do an event that's kind of more fun than like the traditional tournaments that we play in and everything. And so this is a really good way for kids to be able to see it. And so I think it's a really good tie-in. It would be a really good deal or relationship for Disney to have on many, many levels. And I think they would do a really good job in engaging with people through it and building their fan base, as well as building the fan base of Banana Ball.
No, I think that's where the cross will definitely come in that they do have that Venn diagram of fans. There's a lot
Yeah.
that could be in the middle. So no, that would I really want to see what happens with it. And definitely my touch point's going to be that documentary because I love a good documentary. So I'm going to have to check that one out. All right, we do have to shift gears a little bit now that we're all excited about Banana Ball, because usually one of the last things I always do on the live streams is do something creative. And so we're going to get into the last segment, which is Think and Paint for So in Think and Paint, I always try to do something creative, but you did something very creative. You've written books before, but this one here, I have it in my hands here. The Perspective Files is your first work of fiction. And so I'm excited to have it here in my hands because it is for a younger audience, like YA audience, and that's kind of my favorite kind of books because that's the librarian space that I'm in. So I already started reading a little bit into the first chapter, and I'm excited. Could you give us a little perspective on the Perspective Files?
Yeah. So, and thanks for asking. And anybody who's watching that's interested, if you want to see, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but I
Yeah,
did try to put up a QR code that
it's like
you can
right
see
over
the story.
your left shoulder, our right
Yeah.
side. But yeah,
So the Perspectives Files is basically it was a way to incorporate some of the main points of research that I have done over my 15 years, 16, 17 years of being a researcher into group behavior and basically how people treat each other based on the groups that they're part of. And that was kind of, there was this idea last year or a year and a half ago about, how can a lot of this information be read by more people and not necessarily people, people don't really enjoy reading academic articles about research and things like that. Like,
for sure.
and, it builds on kind of that idea of edutainment, which is what, the Walt Disney Company talked about a lot. And what, in particular, the Epcot Center was when it first opened, was this whole idea of edutainment. And so the idea was, can I create a narrative that intertwines some of the information in a hopefully fun or entertaining way, definitely not in an academic way, for people to read more about it. And so what I started doing was, that's where the Perspectives Files came from. And it's a book about two high school students, high school juniors, that they kind of find out they have been recruited into this special organization called Shared Perspectives, which is also, people can go to sharedperspectives.org. That's the website that I have that has some of the research and I'm adding stories from the Perspectives Files on there. I'm going to add more content from the Perspectives Files, like the Easter eggs and everything in the book,
Oh, cool.
to that website that people can look at. But they find out they've been recruited to this organization, that the purpose of the organization is to oversee or monitor people's decisions throughout history. And what starts out as they believe they are just joining an organization that is supposed to watch the decisions people make. Then obviously, it's a 3-act story where you have the first act where the characters are introduced. The second act is the conflict. And the conflict actually, excuse me, the conflict actually occurs when they are trying to learn a lesson in 1962 Disneyland. And so that's where the conflict happens and kind of gets you into Act 2. And then Act 3 is how they have to resolve this problem that is happening. And so what ends up happening is there's time travel that's involved. There's location jumping and time slipping is what I call it in the book. And they have to, by the end of the book, they have become agents that are responsible for monitoring people's decisions, but also preserving historical decisions, whether those, like making sure those events happen the way they did in history, because they find out somebody is trying to change some of those events, and we don't necessarily know why. That's for subsequent stories and subsequent books.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And so for Disney fans, there are a lot of Easter eggs in there. I mean, this is, you and I are both, we both kind of grew up around the same time, so there's a whole lot of Easter eggs to like later 80s, early 90s childhoods.
Love it.
But
Yeah.
then there's a whole lot of Disney Easter eggs in there as well. Like I said, they go to 1962 Disneyland. The culminating event, as you can see on the title, you can see on the cover, actually happens at the 1964 New York World's Fair, which Disney fans know is a very influential event in history because of the four pavilions that the WED Enterprises were able to develop at that time. And so it's hopefully a fun book that people can read, and they can pick up some of the research that I've been doing in a fun way. And then they can pick up on a lot of these Easter eggs as well. And the other thing that was really cool is when I started writing it, I've been able to incorporate people who have been on Being a Fan of Disney, the podcast, several times. And kind of, so some of the characters that you meet in the book are actually based on real people that are in the Disney community. And for anybody that is interested, yes, there's a character that would be based on Eric in the next stories or few stories.
So I want to get to that one. No.
Yeah.
No,
so,
I'm excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's hopefully a fun way for people to be able to get through a young reader novel. And, it's my first time that I've written a fiction story. And so it was really, really interesting for me to see how I write those types of stories, because being a Disney fan, I didn't start out thinking I was going to incorporate Disney into here. But then little by little, I would incorporate more and more and more until it really became, I by the end, I could place a whole book, it probably within the Disney sphere, and be perfectly happy with it as well. But I do try to mix up a lot of popular culture references in there for people.
Nice. Yeah, we can't help it. We have to put the Disney in there.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited. I started to read a little bit. I'm excited because when I'm finished reading it, it's going to go into my library so students can check it out from there.
Awesome.
So I'll have to, once I have it cataloged, I'll definitely shoot some pictures your way so you could see a catalog book on the shelf in my library. That, I just think that's cool. So no, I'm excited to read it, to finish reading it. Like I said, I got a little bit started here in the first chapter because I got it not long ago. No, I'm excited to read it, and I'm excited to see how I show up in some form in a future books. That's awesome.
Well, and the book is written through something called Kindle Direct Publishing. So it's available on Amazon, either in paperback, hardback, Kindle version. And then I'm doing the audiobook now, which is another interesting thing, because as you could tell, I don't really have a voice octave that fits with like a high school junior girl, but so that's pretty interesting. But one thing that's really fun about publishing with KDP is, if I ever find something that is a typo or anything, I go in and I can create a new version of the book.
Oh, that's
and
really
the
cool.
next person that buys it, they would actually have that version. So what I tell people is, if you read it, and if everybody bought a copy, read it, and let me know at least one edit in there, everybody would probably have their very own copy, their very own unique copy of the book. Because There are a lot of typos, unfortunately, that I didn't really catch before it went out for the first time.
But hey, keep editing it. That's kind of cool that you can do that. So
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, yeah, thanks for filling us in on it. I know I'm excited to read it. Other people, go ahead and check it out. Check out sharedperspectives.org and being a fan of Disney, the podcast. Anything else they should check out of yours? The
There,
book?
if
Yeah.
people, yeah, there is being a fan of Disney. The book is
Mhm.
also, you could also get that on Amazon if you just search my name, Cody Havard. But if you like the stories of from the Perspectives Files, I will be adding stories about individual characters on sharedperspectives.org. There actually is one of the more recent episodes of Being a Fan of Disney, the podcast. I read the chapter, or I read the short story about Elliot, who's one of the main characters in the book, and I have 3 or 4 more that I'm in various stages of writing and producing those stories as well. And so if people read it and they're interested in learning more about these characters, there will be more short stories
Awesome.
and additional stories with them as well. And another thing that's really cool is in future books, when Eric is a character in those future books, people if people are interested in, hey, what would he be doing, or what would he do with shared perspectives, and what type of agent would he be? People can always reach out, and they can always kind of share their ideas, and maybe it will influence where the stories go, and things like that. That's been something that's really fun about these, is it's a nice way to kind of delve into my creativity, and also share kind of in this collective community of Disney fans, which we all belong to.
Yeah. No, that is really cool. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much, Cody, for joining me in this live stream. Good old Synergy Loves Company live here. I got some Banana Ball documentaries to watch. I got some awesome reading to do. And so yeah, thanks for hanging out with me and talking all sorts of things.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Eric, and thanks everybody. This was a whole lot of fun, so I really really appreciate being here. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. And remember to I as I'm like trying to sign off and click all my buttons, and I forget my line because I'm clicking different things here. That's called doing this live. So remember to keep discovering the magic in everything.